History generates, in Boston, 150,000 jobs. There are 3 million people a year who walk the Freedom Trail. History attracts a total of 20 million visitors a year to Boston and generates $1 billion in revenue. And that's just the beginning of its value. Its value is in the long run. Because what history does is to tell us how to behave. It tells us what true heroism is. It tells us about cause and effect and responsibility and the idea that education matters specifically, inevitably, crucially in a system whereby the people govern themselves. It won't work without an educated populace. Anyone who expects a nation to be ignorant and free expects what never was and never will be, said Thomas Jefferson. And history ought to be, and continue to be, and can be here perhaps better than anywhere else, the essential ingredient of an education, because history isn't just about politics and the military. History is about everything. It's about life. It's about our story, who we are. And to shut children off from that, to limit or curtail that part of education, isn't just to produce what may be less effective, contributing, responsible citizenry, but it is to deny them one of the joys of living. It would be almost as if you said there'd be no more art for you, or no more music, or no more poetry, or no more theater. Why would anyone want to be provincial in time any more than in space, when the whole experience of humankind is available for us to understand and explore? The story of this country, the story of those leaders. When George C. Marshall was first named Secretary of State by Harry Truman, he was asked at a press conference if he'd had a good education at the Virginia Military Institute. And he said, "No, I did not." And when they asked him why, he said, "Because we were taught no history." He understood that history was essential to leadership, not just for military leaders, for all leaders. There's no one type of a leader. They come in all shapes and sizes. Certainly that's been the experience of my reading into history. But they do have certain qualities that have to be sustained and that we have to know more about. Strength of character, an ability not to take yourself too seriously, the ability to get up off the canvas when you've been knocked down, the ability to put yourself in the other person's place, the ability to know when to quit, the ability to understand that you are only a chain, one link in a chain that goes on and on. You're not the beginning of everything or the end of everything. And that the sustaining of a civilization has its red-hot center in our cities. Cities are the essence of civilization. Continuity, a sense of continuation, not just of culture or of neighborhoods or of architecture, but of the whole purpose and character of the place. This is a definable city. This is one of the most wonderful cities in the world, truly. But it didn't just happen. It happened because so many people worked so hard together and with great leadership to make it happen. And it's been getting better in our lifetime, noticeably. All 5 of our children were born here in Boston, the first 55 years ago. So Rosalie and I have seen a great deal of change in Boston. And that's why, at this stage in life, we're thrilled to at last have the chance to live here, to take part in the city, to work for institutions like the Public Library and the Museum of Fine Arts and the educational institutions that are here. We're all proud to be Americans, of course. We're all proud to know some of the history of our country. And we think of the country as huge and populous. And we think of the country as the multiplicity of activities and settings. But as Thomas P. O'Neill famously said, all politics are local. We could also fairly say all history is local. And there's no better place to set the lens down to look at the history of our country than right here. I was very moved, as I'm sure many of you were, by the young woman singing God Bless America. America the Beautiful. One of my favorite lines in that marvelous piece is in the second verse. Catherine Lee Bates' great second verse. America, America, God mend thine every flaw. Confirm thy soul in self-control, thy liberty in law. John Adams defended the British soldiers accused of murder in the Boston Massacre trial. At the risk of his career, at the risk of creating enmity for his entire family, because he knew we must be a government of law, not of men. He was willing to stake everything on that fundamental belief. That's real leadership. That's character. And John Adams and that trial, that moment in our history took place here. And how proud we should be of that. Abigail Adams, in one of her marvelous letters, wrote to her husband, "You cannot be, nor do I wish to see you, an inactive spectator. We have too many high-sounding words and too few actions that correspond with them." That's inspiration, not just for her husband, but for all of us. We must build and keep building and improving. As Americans always have had, we have big work to do. On we go.